The massive Confederation diplomatic vessel dwarfed the human shuttle as it docked at the central bay. Captain Han waited nervously at the airlock, shoulders squared beneath her formal uniform. As Earth's chosen representative, she knew the pressure, riding on this first official meeting with the Galactic Confederation. Remember, Admiral Kim had told her before departure, they're calling Earth a death world. They're already afraid of us. Try not to make it worse. The airlock cycled open, revealing 3 aliens of different species. The tallest, with iridescent scales and 4 arms, stepped forward. Captain Sun Han of Earth, it spoke through a translator device. I am Ambassador Trill. Welcome to the Confederation. We have concerns about integrating Deathworlders into our community. Han smiled politely, careful not to show teeth. We look forward to addressing those concerns, Ambassador. Trill led Han through winding corridors filled with species of all shapes and sizes. Many stopped to stare at the human. Some even backed away. Han noticed how the air felt thin, the gravity weak. Everything designed for beings from gentler worlds. Your quarters, Trill said, gesturing to a door that slid open. We've adjusted the environment to Earth standard as best we could. Thank you, Han replied, setting down her small bag. When will the formal introductions begin? Tomorrow. Rest now. Your biology requires more recovery time than most species here. After Trill left, Han sat heavily on the too-soft bed. The journey had been long, but she wasn't particularly tired. Earth's higher gravity had given her strength that made this station feel like walking in a dream. A chime sounded. The door slid open again to reveal a small, blue-skinned alien. Greetings, Earth being. I am Dr. Moon, xenobiologist. I hope to ask questions about human physiology. Han nodded. Come in, Doctor. Moon entered cautiously, staying near the door. Is it true humans can continue functioning after losing significant blood volume? Yes, in emergency situations. And your bones? They repair themselves when broken? They do, though it takes time. Moon's large eyes blinked rapidly. Fascinating and concerning. The Council wonders if Deathworlders like you might be too resilient for peaceful integration. Han sighed. Doctor, humans have lived peacefully with each other for generations now. We've had to be strong to survive Earth, yes, but strength doesn't equal aggression. Yet your historical records show constant warfare. Our past, not our present. The next morning, Han entered the Great Council chamber. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy sat in rising tiers. All eyes turned to her, some curious, many fearful. Ambassador Trill introduced her formally. Han stepped forward to address the council. Thank you for welcoming Earth into these discussions. We look forward to joining the Galactic Confederation and sharing knowledge and resources. A tall, spindly alien rose from the front row. Tell us, human, why should we trust creatures evolved to survive conditions that would kill most of us instantly? Your world has crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, and deadly microorganisms everywhere. Even your oxygen levels would poison half the species here. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Han took a deep breath. It's true that Earth shaped us to be resilient, but it also taught us cooperation and innovation. We had to work together to survive our world's challenges. Another representative stood. This one had a shell-like exterior and spoke through a mechanical device. We've reviewed your media transmissions. You glorify combat in your entertainment. We tell stories, Han corrected gently, including ones about overcoming violence through understanding. The debate continued for hours. Han answered countless questions about human biology, psychology, and history. Some seemed determined to paint humans as dangerous barbarians, others genuinely curious. As the session ended, a small delegation approached Han. They represented worlds slightly harsher than the Confederation average. Not death worlds like Earth, but challenging environments. We would like to learn more about human adaptation methods, their spokesperson said. Perhaps there is much we could teach each other. Han smiled, relief washing over her. I'd be honored. Later, in her quarters, Han recorded her daily report. For Earth. First impressions are mixed. Many fear us simply for surviving where they couldn't, but others see potential in our resilience. Tomorrow they've requested a physical demonstration of human capabilities. She paused, thinking of how she'd barely exerted herself in the station's gravity. I'll need to be careful. What feels like normal movement to me looks like superhuman ability to them. The last thing we need is to confirm their fears that we're dangerous. Ambassador Trill's voice came through the comm system. Captain Han, the military council requests your presence. A new species has joined the Confederation, the Vox. They're challenging your right to be here. Han sighed. Day one of diplomacy, and already a crisis. But perhaps this was an opportunity to show that human strength came with restraint. I'll be right there, she said, straightening her uniform and heading for the door. This is outrageous. The Vox representative slammed his fist on the council table. We will not share Confederation resources with untested primitives from a death world. 3 weeks into negotiations, and the newly arrived Vox delegation had thrown everything into chaos. Ambassador Park leaned toward Han. They're warriors. They respect strength above all. Then perhaps a demonstration is in order, Han replied, rising to her feet. In the tradition of many Earth cultures, I propose a contest between champions. The Vox representative's mouth tendrils quivered with excitement. We accept. Our greatest warrior, Grawl, will face your champion. Very well, Han said, checking her datapad casually. I'll inform Lieutenant Lee. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. Ambassador Trill rushed to Han's side as the meeting adjourned. Captain, do you understand what you've done? The Vox are bred for combat. Their champion has killed opponents in these friendly contests before. Han's face remained calm. Lieutenant Lee can handle himself. This isn't about pride, Trill hissed. This is about survival. The Vox joined the Confederation only because their numbers were too small to conquer us. They seek any excuse for dominance. Later that evening, Han called Lieutenant Lee to her quarters. He arrived promptly, standing at attention until she waved him to sit. You've heard about the challenge? She asked. Lee nodded. The crew is talking about little else. It wasn't my first choice, Han admitted. But the Vox have blocked every diplomatic approach. They're using our Death Worlder status against us. So you want me to fight their champion? Not just fight. Han looked him directly in the eyes. I need you to show them what humans are truly capable of, while also showing restraint. It's a delicate balance. Lee smiled slightly. Combat without killing. I believe I can manage that. The next morning, Lee visited the station's archives to study Vox biology and fighting techniques. He found recordings of previous contests. The Vox warrior Grawl was massive, with 4 arms and a thick exoskeleton. His fighting style relied on overwhelming force. A small blue alien approached Lee as he studied the footage. I am Dr. Moon. You are the human champion? Yes, Lee replied without looking away from the screen. You show no fear. Fascinating. Moon moved closer. I've studied your species. Your bone density alone should give you advantage, but Grawl has never lost. There's a first time for everything. News of the coming duel spread quickly through the station. Different species placed bets, most favoring Grawl. Some felt sorry for the poor human, while others were excited to see a Death Worlder tested. Ambassador Park found Lee in the training room that afternoon. The Vox have requested the duel take place tomorrow. They hope to catch you unprepared. Lee continued his stretching routine. That's fine. Fine. Lieutenant, this isn't just about you. This affects Earth's standing in the Confederation. I understand the stakes, Ambassador. Park sighed. Captain Han believes in you. I hope her faith is justified. That evening, Han received an unexpected visitor. The Vox representative himself came to her quarters, his large frame nearly filling the doorway. Captain Han of Earth, he rumbled. I am General Drock. I came to offer you a chance to withdraw your champion. Choose another path to prove your species' worth. Han raised an eyebrow. Are you concerned for my officer's safety, or your champion's reputation? Drock's mouth tendrils twitched. Humans are unknown factors. unpredictable. But we have studied your Lieutenant Lee. He appears unremarkable. Appearances can be deceiving. Indeed. Drock leaned closer. Know this, if your champion dies, it will not reflect poorly on your species. Many have fallen to Grawl. And if your champion loses? Impossible. Drock turned to leave. But it would certainly change how the Confederation views both our species. After he left, Han contacted Lee. The Vox General just tried to intimidate me into withdrawing you. Lee's voice came through calm and clear. They're worried. They're dangerous, Lee. Don't underestimate them. The day of the duel arrived. The station's largest gathering space had been converted into an arena. Representatives from every confederation, species filled the viewing areas. Captain Han sat with the Earth delegation, outwardly calm but inwardly concerned. Much rode on this contest. Ambassador Trill took the seat beside her. Your Lieutenant Lee declined the traditional armor offered to champions. He prefers freedom of movement, Han explained. Against Grawl? Trill's scales shifted to a worried gray. Your champion may be strong for your species, but let's watch and see. Han interrupted gently. A hush fell over the crowd as both champions entered from opposite sides. Grawl was enormous, his 4 arms bearing different weapons, his body encased in ceremonial battle armor. Cheers erupted from the Vox section. Lieutenant Lee walked in wearing only the standard lightweight uniform. He carried a simple metal staff. The contrast couldn't have been more striking. The arena master stepped forward. This contest will determine the standing of both species within our community. Victory comes through submission or incapacitation. He looked at both champions. Does the human wish to forfeit and choose a more suitable weapon? Lee tested the weight of his staff in his hands. This will suffice. As the arena master stepped away, Grawl raised all 4 weapons, roaring a challenge that echoed through the chamber. Lee simply nodded, ready to show the Confederation what a human from Earth could do. Lieutenant Lee moved through the training room with fluid precision, dispatching combat drones with efficient strikes from his practice staff. A group of alien diplomats watched from behind the safety barrier, whispering among themselves. The human has been training for 6 standard cycles, said one observer, yet he continues to increase difficulty. Lee deactivated the final drone and noticed his audience. Ambassador Park was leading a tour for various Confederation representatives. Lieutenant, called Park. Our guests were hoping for a demonstration of Earth combat techniques. Lee nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. Computer, activate combat. Scenario Epsilon. The room transformed into a hellish landscape. Drones emerged from all directions, weapons charged. Isn't this excessive? Asked a concerned diplomat. Lee shrugged. This is merely practice compared to actual combat training on Earth. The aliens exchanged horrified glances. Lee began to move, his staff becoming a blur as he engaged multiple opponents simultaneously. The room's gravity suddenly increased, making each step more difficult. Lee adjusted instantly, barely slowing his pace. One diplomat turned to Park. Your gravity settings are malfunctioning. No, Park replied quietly. This is part of the training. Earth's gravity is higher than the station's. Lee is acclimating back to his natural environment. A drone fired a stun blast that would have incapacitated most species. Lee rolled under it and disabled the drone with a precise strike to its sensor array. Dr. Moon pushed to the front of the group, recording everything with a small device. Remarkable reaction time, and the muscular skeletal coordination under increased gravitational force. The simulation ended after 15 minutes. Lee stood in the center of the room, breathing slightly harder, but otherwise showing little sign of exertion. The disabled drones reset themselves and moved back to their storage positions. That was level 3, Lee explained to the stunned audience. Standard Earth military trains to level 5. News of the demonstration spread quickly through the station. By evening, Captain Han was fielding concerns from nervous Confederation officials. Your lieutenant destroyed 17 combat drones designed to train our elite security forces. one reptilian administrator said, and he called it merely practice. Han maintained her diplomatic smile. Different evolutionary paths lead to different capabilities. My officer wasn't showing off, he was simply maintaining his normal routine. Later in the station's dining area, Lee sat alone. Few aliens seemed willing to approach him after word of his training session spread. Then, surprisingly, a young Fox warrior sat across from him. "I am Tark, second to Champion Grawl," he said, studying Lee with 4 yellow eyes. "I witnessed your training today." Lee nodded politely but continued eating. "Our species has never encountered Deathworlders before," Tark continued. "We believed our physical superiority was absolute." "Everyone has strengths and weaknesses," Lee replied. "Grawl has seen the recordings. He is unsettled." Tark leaned forward. "What is your secret? Chemical enhancements? Mechanical augmentation?" Lee set down his utensil. "Just the planet I was born on. Earth's higher gravity, varied predators, and extreme environments shaped humans over millions of years." That night, Captain Han called Lee to a private meeting room. Ambassador Trill was there, scales shifted to an anxious purple. "The Vox delegation has formally requested that you submit to a medical examination," Han explained. "They believe you must be artificially enhanced." Lee frowned. "Because of my training session? They've never seen anyone move like that," Trill said, "especially not with increased gravity." "What do you recommend, Captain?" Lee asked. Han considered for a moment. "Submit to the exam. Let them see you're just a natural human. It might actually work in our favor." The next morning, Lee reported to the medical bay. Dr. Moon supervised as various scanners examined his body. "Fascinating," Moon murmured. "Your muscular density, bone structure, reflexes, all natural adaptations to your homeworld." Several Vox observers watched from behind a partition, their postures revealing their tension. "And this is average for a human?" one asked. "Lieutenant Lee is fit, but not exceptional by Earth standards," Moon confirmed. Back in the training room that afternoon, Lee found it had been modified. The combat drones had been replaced with holographic opponents modeled after Grawl. "The Vox provided his fighting data," Park explained. "They insist it's a courtesy so you can prepare properly." Lee smiled slightly. "Or they're hoping I'll reveal my strategy." Park looked concerned. "They're worried, Lee, and worried warriors are dangerous." For 3 hours, Lee practiced against the holographic Grawl, learning its movements, identifying patterns and weaknesses. A small crowd gathered again to watch. This time, they kept complete silence. When he finished, Lee noticed Captain Han had joined the observers. "How does it look?" she asked as they walked back to the residential section. "Their champion relies on strength and reach. 4 arms give him advantages in grappling and multiple attack vectors. Can you beat him?" Lee stopped walking. "Captain, I grew up in Earth's gravity, trained in unpredictable environments and learned to adapt quickly. Grawl is powerful but predictable." "So that's a yes?" Lee smiled. "It's more than that. Tomorrow won't just be about winning. It will be about showing the Confederation what humans truly are." "And what's that?" "Not just strong survivors from a death world," Lee said, "but beings who use strength with control and precision. That's what they really need to understand about us." The arena fell silent as Lieutenant Lee entered from one side and Grawl from the other. The Vox warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in chitinous armor and wielding a vibro axe that hummed with deadly energy. Lee wore only the standard lightweight uniform and carried a simple metal staff. The contrast couldn't have been more striking. "Does the human wish to forfeit and choose a more suitable weapon?" the arena master asked. "This will suffice," Lee replied calmly. The signal was given. Grawl charged with a roar that shook the arena. Walls. Lee sidestepped with seemingly impossible speed, his staff connecting with the back of Grawl's knee joint. What followed wasn't a battle but a demonstration. Lee moved like water around Grawl's increasingly desperate attacks, each movement precise and economical. When Grawl finally collapsed from exhaustion, Lee helped him to his feet. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the human easily evaded another powerful swing from the massive Vox warrior. Graal's forearms worked in coordination, each weapon following a different attack path designed to leave no escape route. Yet Lee found one, ducking under a blade and spinning past an electrified mace. His staff struck precisely against nerve clusters, not hard enough to break the alien's thick exoskeleton, but with enough force to cause momentary pain and disruption. "Stand still and fight properly," Graal bellowed, frustration evident in his voice. Lee didn't respond. He continued his defensive strategy, letting the larger opponent tire himself out. The Vox warrior's attacks became more frantic, less coordinated. In the viewing area, Captain Han sat beside Ambassador Trill, whose scales had shifted to an impressed blue-green. "Your champion fights strangely," Trill observed. "He has had many opportunities to strike decisively, yet he holds back." "He's not trying to hurt Graal," Han explained. "He's demonstrating control." Nearby, General Drock of the Vox watched with narrowed eyes. "This is not combat. The human is playing with our champion." "No," Han corrected firmly. "He's showing respect by not causing unnecessary harm." In the arena, Graal had switched tactics. He now stood in the center, conserving energy, waiting for Lee to attack. When the human didn't, Graal spoke loudly enough for all to hear. "Are all Deathworlders cowards who refuse to engage?" Lee paused, staff held loosely at his side. "There's a difference between caution and cowardice. On Earth, we learn to survive by understanding our opponents, not just overpowering them." "Pretty words to hide weakness," Graal taunted, rotating his weapons. Lee smiled slightly. "If you insist." What happened next caused gasps throughout the arena. Lee moved forward with startling speed, his staff becoming a blur. He struck with precision at key points on Graal's body, not with maximum force but with perfectly calculated impact. One by one, Graal's weapons clattered to the floor as nerve clusters were temporarily paralyzed. The Vox warrior staggered back, unable to coordinate his limbs properly. "How?" Graal began, before Lee swept his legs from under him, sending the massive alien crashing to the floor. Lee stood over his opponent, staff poised but not striking. "Yield." The Vox warrior struggled to rise, managed to get to one knee, then collapsed again. "I cannot continue." The arena master stepped forward. "The contest is decided. The human champion is victorious." Complete silence filled the arena. Then, from the Confederation representatives, applause began to spread. Not celebratory, but respectful, acknowledging what they had witnessed. Dr. Moon rushed to the edge of the arena. "Lieutenant Lee, your vital signs during combat, they barely elevated. How is this possible?" Lee offered his hand to Graal, helping the disoriented warrior to his feet. "As I said, this was similar to our practice drills. Nothing extraordinary." The Vox champion leaned heavily on Lee as they walked toward the exit. "You could have killed me many times," he rumbled quietly. "That wasn't the point of this contest." "What was the point then?" Lee looked up at the much taller alien. "To show that strength without control is just brutality. Humans learned that lesson on our death world." Captain Han met them at the arena exit. General Drock stood beside her, his posture rigid. "Your champion fought with honor," Drock admitted reluctantly, "though his methods are unconventional." "Effective, though," Han replied with a small smile. Lee helped medical staff take Graal for treatment, explaining, "The paralysis is temporary. He'll regain full mobility within an hour." As the crowd dispersed, representatives from various species approached Han, many who had previously avoided the human delegation. "We have misjudged your kind," said one avian diplomat. "We saw only the danger of Deathworlders, not the discipline that surviving such a world requires." Ambassador Trill joined them. "The Council wishes to reconvene immediately to discuss Earth's status in the Confederation. This demonstration has changed perspectives." Han nodded. "We'll be there." As they walked away, Han spoke quietly to Lee. "You did exactly what was needed, showed strength without aggression, control without cruelty." "It wasn't just me," Lee replied. It was generations of humans learning that survival means more than just being the strongest or most vicious. Well, you've certainly given the Confederation something to think about. Lee smiled. I think I've given the Vox something to think about too. Did you see General Drock's face? He looked like he was reconsidering a lot of assumptions. That, said Han, was the entire point. Remember to cite your sources appropriately. If you're referencing information from web search results, use tags to cite your sources. I don't understand, Ambassador Trill said as they walked the station's observation deck. If humans are capable of such combat prowess, why didn't your history show more conquest? Captain Han looked out at the stars. Because we learned that strength without restraint leads to destruction. We don't train to dominate. We train to survive and protect. Below them in the station's training center, Lieutenant Lee was conducting a joint session with several Vox warriors, teaching them human defensive techniques. Your people called Earth a death world, Han continued. But it taught us something valuable: adaptation. When your environment constantly tries to kill you, you either become stronger or you perish. Trill's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue. Perhaps the Confederation needs Deathworlders more than we realized. Han smiled. Perhaps we need each other. 3 days had passed since the duel. The station buzzed with activity as various species reassessed their understanding of humans. Where once they had kept their distance, now many approached the Earth delegation with questions and invitations. In the council chamber, representatives debated a new proposal, integrating humans into the Confederation's peacekeeping forces. Some still expressed concern, but the tide had clearly turned. General Drock surprised everyone by speaking in favor. The Vox value strength. The human displayed not just physical power, but tactical thinking and restraint. These are qualities worthy of respect. After the session, Dr. Moon caught up with Han in the corridor. Captain, our research team has been analyzing Lieutenant Lee's combat techniques. We believe they could be adapted to help smaller species defend themselves, without lethal force. I'm sure Lee would be happy to assist, Han replied. Later that day, Han found Lee in the recreation area, playing a strategy game with Grawl. The Vox champion had made a remarkable recovery, both physically and mentally. Your move, Lee said, watching as Grawl studied the board. You play as you fight, Grawl observed. Patient, looking several moves ahead. On Earth we have a saying, the best victory is the one where you never had to fight at all. Grawl clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. A strange concept for the Vox. We have always equated combat with honor. There can be honor in restraint. 2, Han approached their table. Am I interrupting? Both warriors looked up. Not at all, Lee said. Grawl was just teaching me the finer points of Vox battle philosophy. And losing badly at this game, Grawl added with what Han recognized as humor. The Confederation Council has voted, Han announced. Earth has been formally invited to join as a full member. Lee nodded calmly, but his eyes showed his pleasure at the news. There's more, Han continued. They're requesting Earth's assistance in training a multi-species security force. It seems your demonstration made quite an impression, Lieutenant. Grawl stood, towering over both humans. The Vox will participate in this training. We have much to learn from Deathworlders. That evening, a celebration was held in the station's largest gathering space. Representatives from all Confederation species mingled with the Earth delegation. The atmosphere was relaxed, curious rather than fearful. Ambassador Park found Han watching Lee demonstrate basic defensive moves to a group of smaller aliens. Quite a change from 3 days ago, Park commented. When they were all convinced, we were dangerous monsters. We are dangerous, Han replied quietly, but that's not all we are. The Vox delegation has requested permission to visit Earth, Park said. They want to understand the environment that produced us. Han raised an eyebrow. Brave of them. Did you explain our gravity? And the weather, and the predators, and the diseases. They're still interested. Across the room, Ambassador Trill was addressing the gathering. Today marks a historic occasion. The addition of Earth to our confederation brings not just a new world, but a new perspective. Trill's scales rippled with formal colors of welcome. We initially feared what we called Deathworlders. We saw only the potential for violence in beings evolved to survive harsh conditions. The duel showed us something different, that surviving difficulty can teach wisdom along with strength. General Drock stepped forward. The Vox acknowledged the humans as worthy allies. Their warrior showed what we had forgotten, that true strength lies not just in the ability to destroy, but in the choice not to. Later, as the celebration wound down, Han stood alone on the observation deck again. Earth was not visible from this distance, but she thought of home. Its crushing gravity, its extreme weather, its countless challenges that had shaped humanity over millennia. Lieutenant Lee joined her. Thinking of Earth, Captain? Yes. Our death world. Funny how what they fear about us is exactly what they now value. Lee nodded. They've lived in safety so long they forgot that challenge breeds innovation. Comfort rarely does. What do you think will come of all this? Change, Lee said simply. For them, and for us. The Vox warriors I trained today were already adapting my techniques, improving them. Humans don't hold a monopoly on learning. Han smiled. So what began as a demonstration of human exceptionalism ended as a lesson in mutual growth. Isn't that always the way? Lee replied. We go into space thinking we'll conquer it, only to discover it conquers our preconceptions instead. Below, them, the station hummed with activity, species from across the galaxy working together, each bringing their unique evolutionary gifts to the common table. And among them moved humans from Earth, no longer feared but valued for the very qualities their harsh homeworld had instilled in them. Not conquerors, but partners. Not merely survivors, but teachers. Deathworlders who had learned that life was what mattered most.